Alright, moving on to explain 2. We're given an example problem, letter A, to simplify the expression by writing using rational exponents. Alright, so here we have our expression. So the first part I'm going to put in is our x value, and then I'm going to rewrite 2y as a fractional exponent. Here I have a 3 on the outside, so that'll go on the bottom. And since there's no exponent that I see here, I'm going to assume that's 1. Whenever you don't see an exponent, you can always assume that's 1 here for the outside. If here we'll write what's inside, which is 4x squared y squared. Okay, and again my outside, the radical would go on the bottom, and since there's no exponent that I see here, we'll put it as a 1. The next step, it says, is to write a power of a product property. So what we could do, since both of these are the same exponent, we can kind of write all of this 2y times 4x squared y to the 1/3 power. Okay, we would still bring down that x, and just as it says here, simplify what's in the parentheses. So 2 times 4 would be 8. I have 1y here and 1y there. That would be make that y to the 2nd power. And since there's no partner for x squared, I'll just bring that down. A couple students say, well, what if I put the y first or the x? You want to make it sure it's in alphabetical order. Last but not least, we'll bring down that x. We still have that exponent here. And it states power of a product property, which means we're going to distribute that exponent to what is inside. Okay. Alright, so that would be x times 8 to the 1/3 power. That would be x times 2 times 1/3, and y 2 times 1/3. Now if you kind of forgot how to multiply fractions, I'm just going to do that here. So 2 times 1/3 would make this into a fraction, but put a 1 underneath it, and that would be 2 over 3. So I'm left with x to the 1st power, 8 and 1/3, x to the 2/3, and y to the 2/3. And just as it says here, power of a product property, so add exponents of like variables. As you can see here, we have an x and we have a x here. So we can add those two exponents together. Since I want to make this into a fraction, I can put a 1 underneath this. They don't have the same denominator, so I'm going to multiply both top and bottom by 3. So that would be 3 over 3 plus 2 over 3. We add the tops, that would be 5 over 3. So that would be x to the 5 over 3 power times 8 to the 1/3 times y to the 2/3. Now if you have a calculator, you can try and simplify out that 8 to the 1/3 power. If you did do that, go ahead and pause and see if you can simplify that out. If you did do that, you could make that as a 2 x to the 5/3 power, y to the 2/3 power. Moving right along to letter B. Here you see that they give us a problem. They want us again to simplify using rational or fractional exponents. So what they did here was they wrote using rational exponents. Remember, if there's not a number outside the radical, it is a square root. So there's a 2 there. So they wrote this as 1 over 2, or 64y to the 1/2 power. And they wrote that 64y here to the 1/3 power. The next thing we can do is, since we do have the same base, 64y, we can subtract those two. So we can subtract 1/2, take away 1/3. The numerator's exponent minus the denominator's exponent. If you kind of forgot how to subtract fractions, here's just a little lesson in that. So the denominators are not the same. We have to make them the same. So our least common denominator would be, if I do my times tables, that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 6, 9. So it looks like 6 would be the common denominator. We would multiply 2 by 3, and we would multiply 3 by 2. So that would be 3, 2. Now we can subtract them. 3 take away 2 would be 1/6. So that'd be to the 1/6 power. The last part is to actually distribute that fractional exponent to what's inside. So 64 to the 1/6 power and y to the 1/6 power. Take some time to kind of calculate that out of what 64 to the 1/6 power would be. And if you did that calculation, you would have found that to be 2y to the 1/6 power. Just like it says here, stop here and try out the problems in your packet for the explain 2. Alright, and we'll come back and do explain 3 in just a moment.